We drop billions of dollars every single year at the pharmacy. We chase down prescriptions, buy high-end serums, and stock our cabinets with supplements, all trying to fix our bodies. But what if we've been completely ignoring the most potent, biologically active medicines on the planet? I'm talking about compounds that were discovered, extracted, and perfected thousands of years ago. These aren't just metaphors or spiritual symbols dressed up as wellness trends. The oldest book in human history has actually been hiding a masterclass in medicine. And right now, modern science is finally catching up, proving that these exact ancient oils can obliterate drug-resistant bacteria, rapidly regenerate skin cells, and literally rewire your brain chemistry. Today, we're breaking down 10 biblical oils backed by hardcore, peer-reviewed clinical research. You'll want to stick around for number 2 because ancient healers literally called it the cure for everything but death, and today's oncologists are realizing they weren't joking. Let's get into it. Number 10, olive oil. Let's kick things off with something sitting in your kitchen right now. Olive oil isn't just a cooking staple. In the ancient world, it was the absolute bedrock of trauma care. The Bible mentions it over 140 times. When the Good Samaritan found a man beaten on the road, he didn't just wrap him in cloth, he poured oil and wine directly into his open wounds. That wasn't a religious ritual, it was a calculated, clinical intervention. And modern science shows us exactly why it worked so well. Extra virgin olive oil is loaded with a powerful polyphenol called oleocanthal. When this compound enters your system, it behaves almost identically to over-the-counter painkillers like ibuprofen. It actively hunts down and shuts off the exact same inflammatory enzymes that pharmaceutical NSAIDs target. But instead of tearing up your stomach lining in the process, the heavy dose of vitamin E and squalene in olive oil actually builds a protective barrier over damaged tissue, hyper-accelerating cellular repair. They didn't have the biochemistry to explain it back then, but they had the undeniable results. Number 9, frankincense. When 3 wise men dragged frankincense across a scorching desert to give to a newborn king, they weren't handing over a luxury room spray. They were delivering the most advanced, highly prized medical technology of their era. Frankincense resin is extracted from the rugged boswellia tree, and back then it was traded for more than its weight in gold. The active compounds in this oil are called boswellic acids. These are massive, natural inhibitors of the specific enzymes that trigger crippling joint pain, arthritis, and asthma. But it gets crazier. Researchers at Hebrew University recently discovered that a specific compound in frankincense physically crosses the blood-brain barrier. Once it gets inside your brain, it activates ion channels tied directly to emotional regulation, immediately tanking your anxiety and stress levels. When the ancients burned this in temples and breathed in the heavy smoke, they were literally microdosing highly active neurological medicine.
Number 8, myrrh. Myrrh is the oil that bookends the life of Jesus, brought as a lavish gift at his birth and used to tightly wrap his body in the tomb. In the ancient Middle East, if you needed to preserve tissue, stop a raging infection, or survive a brutal injury, myrrh was your ultimate line of defense. And looking at its chemical profile today, it's an absolute powerhouse. Myrrh is packed with complex compounds that aggressively attack and destroy bacteria, stubborn fungi, and parasites. In clinical lab tests, it even takes down drug-resistant bacterial strains that modern hospitals struggle to contain. But myrrh also doubles as a heavy-duty anesthetic. It partially activates the exact same opioid receptors in your brain that prescription pain meds target. So when Roman soldiers offered Jesus wine mixed with myrrh during the crucifixion, that was the most potent, pharmacologically real pain management available on the planet. Number 7, spikenard. There is a famous story where a woman named Mary shatters a sealed alabaster jar of pure spikenard just to pour it over Jesus. It caused an absolute uproar in the room because that one single jar was worth 300 denarii. That was an entire year's salary for a working man, poured out and gone in a matter of seconds. Why on earth was it so incredibly expensive? Because spikenard, harvested from deep in the Himalayan mountains, was essentially the ancient equivalent of high-end psychiatric medicine. Animal studies show that its complex compounds act as an intense system-wide sedative. It works directly through your GABA receptor pathways, which happens to be the exact same neurological system that modern anti-anxiety medications target today. On top of wiping out acute anxiety, it actively protects the specific neurons in your brain that produce dopamine. Buying Spikenard wasn't just buying perfume, it was buying a biological shield for your nervous system. Number 6. Hyssop. King David famously wrote, "Purge me with hyssop and I shall be clean." For hundreds of years, scholars read that and thought he was just being poetic. Hyssop was the ancient world's ultimate symbol of cleanliness, used heavily in the strict purification laws of Leviticus to cleanse homes and people after severe disease outbreaks. But David wasn't just writing poetry. Modern researchers analyzed hyssop and realized it is absolutely loaded with carvacrol and thymol. These are the same heavy-hitting, pathogen-destroying compounds that make oregano oil so famous today. Hyssop oil possesses such aggressive antibacterial and antiviral properties that laboratory studies have even shown it inhibiting the herpes simplex virus. Plus, it acts as a rapid expectorant, breaking down heavy mucus in the lungs. When ancient priests sprinkled hyssop water on someone returning from a plague, they were effectively using a highly active botanical disinfectant to stop an epidemic in its tracks. 5. Cinnamon oil, the mind protector. When you hear cinnamon, you probably think of a sweet powder sprinkled on your morning coffee. But the cinnamon oil listed in the sacred anointing formula of Exodus 30 is a completely different beast. This is a biological powerhouse. Laboratory tests confirm that true cinnamon oil actively obliterates over 40 different bacterial species, including aggressive strains of staph and E. coli. But it gets even more fascinating when you look at what it does to the human brain. Peer-reviewed research has proven that cinnamon compounds physically protect your brain cells from the exact tau protein buildups that are responsible for Alzheimer's disease. The ancient priests who were covered in this sacred anointing blend weren't just smelling good, they were consistently rubbing high-grade neuroprotective medicine directly into their skin. 4. Aloe oil, the cellular regenerator. After the crucifixion, Nicodemus didn't just bring a small ceremonial vial to prepare Jesus' body. He brought 75 pounds of a myrrh and aloe mixture. That is a staggering amount of weight, and it tells you exactly how seriously the ancient world treated this plant for tissue preservation and healing. Aloe vera is absolutely packed with specific polysaccharides that trigger some of the most aggressive wound-healing effects in the entire plant kingdom. Clinical trials show that it genuinely activates your immune response deep inside damaged tissue, forcing your body to rapidly synthesize collagen. That's exactly why modern dermatologists are obsessed with it for post-procedure healing and intense anti-aging. It repairs the cellular structure from the ground up, stopping inflammation exactly where it starts. 3. Saffron oil, the mood elevator. Mentioned specifically in the Song of Solomon as a prized treasure, saffron remains the most expensive spice on earth by weight today. And when you look at the clinical data, it earns every single penny of that price tag. Saffron oil contains highly active compounds that are currently starring in some of the most exciting psychiatric research on the planet. Multiple gold standard randomized controlled trials have proven that saffron supplementation drops symptoms of depression just as effectively as leading pharmaceutical antidepressants. It literally acts as a natural serotonin reuptake inhibitor. It elevates mood, clears brain fog, and stabilizes the nervous system, entirely without the massive list of side effects you get from a modern prescription. 2. Black seed oil. The cure for everything. This is the one I promised you from the very beginning. Black seed oil, extracted from Nigella sativa, has been relied on for over 3,000 years. The ancients famously made a massive, almost unbelievable claim about it, calling it the cure for every single disease except death. For a long time, modern medicine brushed that off as ancient exaggeration. But then researchers started isolating and testing its primary compound,
thymoquinone. The lab results were absolutely staggering. This compound has shown intense anti-cancer activity, actually inducing cell death in cancer cells and physically cutting off the blood supply to tumors so they can't grow. On top of that, it drops fasting blood sugar, opens up the restricted airways of asthmatics, and even kills antibiotic-resistant hospital staph infections like MRSA. They weren't exaggerating. 1. Balm of Gilead, the proverb of healing. Is there no balm in Gilead? The prophet Jeremiah asked this when his people were suffering, and the phrase became legendary. This oil was so universally known as the ultimate, undefeated healer that its total absence meant you were completely doomed. Extracted from a highly guarded resinous tree in the ancient Jordan Valley, the true balm of Gilead was the absolute pinnacle of trauma medicine. Modern analysis reveals that this specific resin actively triggers TRVP3 channels in the human body. These are the exact biological pathways that initiate rapid, intense skin regeneration and forcibly shut down localized inflammation. It was so incredibly effective that ancient traders would risk their lives crossing deadly, unforgiving deserts just to make sure they had it stocked in their medical kits. We've just scratched the surface of thousands of years of forgotten medical wisdom. The compounds in these oils have survived empires, harsh deserts, and time itself. And now, modern science is finally proving exactly why they work. But this information doesn't do any good if it just stays a secret. If you know someone who is actively struggling with their health right now, whether they are dealing with chronic pain, severe anxiety, or a battered immune system, share this video with them. Send them the link. Give them a clear reason to try a natural, scientifically proven approach that they've probably never even heard of. Sometimes the best medicine is the kind that's been growing straight out of the earth all along. If you want more deep dives into ancient wellness backed by modern science, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss what we're working on next. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.